to me, it feels like a vague statement that every UX designer is doing stuff like this. I was just scanning for things that popped out, and really what I see is lots of walls of text here. They're trying to rush to judgment. They're looking for reasons to say no and triage you out of their recruiting funnel. The little things like this are just easy reasons to say no. Listen, if you're applying for UX design jobs, the UX of your portfolio and case study needs to be bulletproof. It needs to be peerless. To all you designers out there working on your portfolios, get rid of. The first thing that popped out to me was the thumbnails for the projects. And this is just a comment around visual design. I really like that Morgan has these simple thumbnails of each project. It's really scannable. And I like the format, just horizontally scrolling. It makes it really easy. It's not like a fussy horizontal scroller where you've got to click to see each one at a time. I think this is a good format for making it scannable. I think the way these thumbnails can be improved, though, is like, let's look at the amount of pixels that are reserved for each project. And what percent of this rectangle with rounded corners is the background versus the work. And so I wonder if it's hard to see the actual work. And so I wonder if there's a way to zoom into that so the actual visuals of the projects have more impact.
Like this one.
Yeah, that's a really good call out.
Yeah, this one is a bit small, but this feels like it gives enough of a glance that you can tell.
Yeah, like the paw pursuit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's awesome feedback.
Well,
first of all, one thing I wanted to call out real fast is the word passion in the top. So cheers, gentlemen.
Oh, let's go. Cheers. Thank you, Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then there's also a dog app, I believe.
Oh, there is.
There is.
There's a dog
paw
app.
Pursuit.
All right, number two.
Paw Pursuit.
Cheers.
Paw Pursuit.
Let's go.
I wonder if we can open our hearts there because we know Morgan is a dog lover. So is there some sort of extra credit or something? I mean,
no, I think it's a pass. Yeah, let's say it.
Extra credit, but still worth the sip.
Okay, I'm sipping.
The sip was good anyway, so don't mind it too much.
Yeah, we all love dogs. It's just there's so many dog apps and they're always so random, like, and they're solving for a Google UX thing. So,
so Jeff, what are your thoughts about the top part here where it says Morgan and all that stuff?
So, I think that there's my own personal opinion on these introductions where people are talking about themselves. I tend to be more like super pragmatic and robotic, and like I just want to get to the stuff, like the hard qualifications to know if I want to go further. But I think a lot of people love personal details like this. So, I think it's fine. I think it's good to say, hey, I'm Morgan. Here's some stuff about me personally. I think that's totally cool. I read the paragraph underneath that and wanted more specificity from it, I think is what I was looking for. I work to solve complex problems through innovative user interfaces. To me, I think that can be made to be more specific and maybe remove some of the fluff from that. So that's just, to me, it feels like a vague statement that every UX designer is doing stuff like this, right? What is it that Morgan can tell us about themselves, their work, that kind of makes it stand out and goes, okay, I got a sense of what this person is really good at.
Yeah, and
I'm not really getting that from the
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% right. And the thing is also, like, she highlights visual design and eye catching. So I'm like, okay, so she's going to be great at visual design and UI design, right? That's the expectation she sets, right? When looking at a glance at those case studies, I mean, it looks fine. It's not horrible. But I'm like, is it truly eye-catching, and is it really like, is it really amazing? Right now, I'm getting a sense that it's more like on the okay side than amazing from a visual design standpoint, right? So, if it's something that Morgan, you feel like visual design is not necessarily a 10 out of 10, then I would de-emphasize this on that sentence here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Once you set that bar, you got to hit it. You've got to really hit it, right? You have to deliver. It's a good point. Yeah. I wonder, like, as you were saying that, Ludovic, one thing is like, we're playing inside baseball here, right? We're a bunch of designers. We have a different quality bar for some of this stuff. Do we have any details on who Morgan's target audience is? Is Morgan going for FTE design gigs? Is Morgan going for freelance clients who maybe don't have the level of design knowledge that the three of us have? And the reason I brought that up, Ludovic, I totally agree with what you were saying. But then I was just thinking, okay, is the audience a local business owner in Morgan's neighborhood, and that's who her target client is? their idea of what good visual design is or what looks good is probably very different than ours.
Yes.
So I think that's a factor too. We have to kind of understand a little bit more.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that comes back to that paragraph up top. Like, who is she helping? Like, I think that's something that's missing is like, I help these types of people get this outcome. That's what it's missing. And one last thing before we hop off, I know the timer just went off, but just wanted to call out the text below all of the thumbnails. So it has like the name of the business, the company or whatever that she's working on. Then it has like a tiny little blurb about it, but at the top it's like tags, right? She's like UX UI designer, iOS app, desktop app, team of 4, whatever it is, and then semicolon and then something about it, and that reads really strange. And it's not, and especially when you say you're great at visual design, that's not a great visual design choice. It's not a great information architecture choice. Like it's confusing and it's hard to look at. So would recommend separating those if you're going to keep those tags and like putting the text below it. What I'd recommend doing though instead is, instead of leading with the company, you lead with what you did. What did you solve for? It's okay if it's a short sentence, like helping to improve Avo Academy's X, right? Like, improving something about smiles to your door. Like what's the actual thing that you did? Then Avo Academy is the client. You label that below, and then a little short text about, like, actually you don't have to do anything else after that. It's just like that. You can have the tags, but you leave the rest for actually joining, like when you actually go to the case study.
That's a great point, especially because no one knows those companies. Smile to your door, Avo Academy, like who knows those people, right?
Well, I know Avo Academy.
Why does it matter, right? In terms of hierarchy? Yeah.
So, Jeff, what would you rate this?
I would go, I think it's somewhere in the good realm.
Okay.
I think that I'm between meh and good. I think it doesn't take too much to go up the ladder, especially if she clarifies exactly who she works for, who she benefits, more specificity in the offering, and then cleaning up the hierarchy here. But otherwise, the work itself, and it seems like there is a lot of personality, I can tell from that first sentence up here. I think it can easily be a solid, but right now I'm between meh and good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think between meh and good, I think, again, it'd be very easy to move up the ladder and make it a lot better. With some of the tweaks we talked about here, I think would fix it. So yeah, looking forward to the next round. What advice would you give to someone on their portfolio if you did not want them to get a job?
If I did not want them to get a job. Oh my gosh. I think it's hard for me to choose between like making it look good, like just visual design stuff, and scannability, and they're kind of related. Like if you don't want to get a job, make your online portfolio look bad, right? Don't spend time investing in visual and UI design. That is the easiest and fastest thing for whoever shows up at your website to judge. Anybody who's been doing this for a little while can judge your visual design skill in like a second or two. It's really that fast. All three of us knew exactly when we looked at this portfolio where this person was visually. And so, and I realize that might be a little contrarian because we're UX designers, we're about problems, we're about process, all this technical stuff. The reality is if it doesn't look good, you're out for most roles these days, right? So I would say don't obsess and invest a lot of time into how it looks.
I love that because a lot of people talk about, so many other things which are important. Like you said, like that fraction of a second where like, okay, this is too green or this is good. It's so fast that like so many hiring managers close the portfolio just because they know it doesn't look good enough. So yeah, 100% off.
I love that, 100%. The other thing I would add to that is Hang Zhu, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, who started up Collective Supply and has been doing recruiting for the last like year plus, helping place designers, like UX designers, says that like one of the things that people hire is for visual design. Like as much as people want to decouple visual design and UX, like they're not decoupled. They are very related, and they hire people who can do the entire process start to finish. And like it's what people dub full stack designer, UX designer generalist, whatever you want to call it. That's who is getting hired. And so like you need to be good at this. So I love that. Cool. Well, let's move on to the about page. So we'll go over there. Ludovic will throw 2 minutes on the clock, and we will then talk about it.
A few moments later.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
So first thing, I mean, I'm always big on scannability for even about pages, any part of online case studies. I think that's so important. I mean, we just spent what 2 minutes, a couple of minutes going through this, and I didn't read all this. I was just scanning for things that popped out, and really what I see is lots of walls of text here. And Morgan says some interesting stuff here. I would just wonder if there's ways to bring this out and make it more visual, make it more scannable. That's the first thing I noticed. The other one is I think there's more just kind of vague and fluffy language that's not helping me learn more about Morgan. So Morgan says, my strength lies in crafting straightforward and efficient solutions for intricate systems using my resourcefulness. This is like fluffy corporate speak. Like, can this get more exact and more impactful just in the way what Morgan is telling us in the way that she's writing it? So those are the two things that popped out.
And it's not how she would say to a friend. She would never say to a friend, my strength lies in crafting straightforward and efficient solution. It's like, wait, are you a robot? Are you a corporate robot? Right? So it's like one of the things that is really hard is like decoupling yourself from the professional language that we all used to, that we're all trained to say. And instead saying like, how would I actually say this? Like to someone in front of me right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's hard to do that. I think it takes time to get comfortable doing that. I don't know where Morgan is in their career, but I struggled with this a lot when I was first getting started. I don't know if Morgan's getting started or not, but it's something that takes some getting used to. I learned about Morgan that they're very good. They're incredibly good at the original arcade Pac-Man game.
Yes.
Which is a juicy tidbit spoken in plain language that like made me smile and laugh. It's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And like, can Morgan get a nice like GIF of Pac-Man on this page or something? If Morgan wants to tell us about their superpower playing Pac-Man, lean into it. Give us a GIF or something of Pac-Man. I would have got a kick out of that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something like I think really to lean in on is personality. Like I talk about this a lot. The last portfolio we reviewed, like there were a ton of issues with it, but it had probably the most personality I've ever seen on any portfolio. And because of that, we all said we wanted to talk to this because regardless of the issues, we were like, wow, this person knows how to insert character and tell a story. And like, that is so valuable. And the other things can be learned. And so like this adding personality added so much more. And so I 100% agree with you on that. How can she make this easier to scan, understand what all these things at a glance, but then also lean into the things about her that make her, like the things that make her exciting or whatever parts of her personality she wants to highlight. Like that's on her to figure out. But I think it makes it more interesting. Like I don't come to the About page hoping to learn more about about her UX practices, like maybe why she hopped into UX would be interesting, but I'm more interested in her as a person and I guess why she wants to be a UX designer, but again, not like the what behind that. I don't really care about the what. And
she brings up her history, which is nice. That way we know like she was in graphic design and there is a bit more here about transferable skills. So that helps to connect the past and the current situation. But then, like you said, Jeff, like there is a lot of fluff, of things that could be a bit loosened up. And it's just describing like what is UX design, right? And so it's like, like you said, Colton, this is great, right? It's like, this is the only page where you can talk about you and you only, not just you and your personality, but you like as you relate to your past and your current state of things. But you can cut off so many sentences here and make it so much more impactful as to like, here is what I used to be, here is my passion, without saying the word passion, obviously, but give a sense of
you said there's got to be some sort of penalty for that.
Just you take a sip.
Take a sip, dude.
Just you.
I said without saying it, but you know what? But anyway, imagine like you remove this picture and you remove this picture and you just have this and this. What are you left with? Like that's the thing that is like, if you remove the stuff that's fun, the rest needs to carry itself by its own. And right now it's not, right? So like you said, Jeff, it's like, how can you extract the right amount of information and just give quick glances at it?
Yeah, I love that. Well, then, Jeff, what would you rate this About page?
I would say this is a meh.
I'm right there
just
with you.
Just based on what all the stuff we've talked about, this is a meh. But, again, like I like how you guys said in the previous category, that I don't think it takes a lot to get it to the next category. And that's good. So I think the suggestions you guys pointed out and the stuff we talked through would be solid improvements.
All right. Meh for me too. Colton, are you a meh?
Meh for me, which means,
all right, 3.
Cheers, gentlemen. 3 in a row.
3 mehs in a row.
But Morgan, don't let that dishearten you. Like we've all said, it wouldn't take a lot for you to get this from a meh to, I'd say, a solid, actually, if not a kick-ass, like pretty quickly, especially if you worked through everything we talked about, made it a little more visual, highlighted your personality, you'd quickly move up that ladder.
Yeah, and remove that corporate language, please.
Yes. I help these people do these things. Like that's what you want to aim for. One more palate cleanser in between. So, Jeff, would you rather work with the world's best product manager and the world's most mediocre developer, or the opposite, the world's most mediocre product manager and the world's best dev?
I would choose the world's best dev. For me, it's an easy call because one, the development is when the rubber meets the road, right? That's where things get real. That's where the product actually happens, despite all the stuff that us designers and the PMs are doing before that. So much of that stuff really doesn't matter unless it gets built, and the person who builds it is the dev. And so that's one way I think like that. The second one is, since they are the world's best developer, that means that they also have a bunch of product skills, they have design skills, they have communication skills. And I bet that a designer and a developer working hand in hand together can influence the PM in the right way to get a good result. I guess I'd just rather be in that situation overall than a great PM. Like at the end of the road, or at the end of the day, if you've got a great relationship with a PM and a really talented and savvy PM, if all the strategy, the ideas, the design, if all that stuff can't get implemented, you're done. So I'd choose the best dev.
Nice. I love that.
What about you guys?
I go back and forth depending on the day. I swear to you, sometimes I'm like, that PM. But other times I'm right there with you. I think overall I would choose dev. But there are certain times where it fluctuates.
It depends. That's where you're going.
Yeah, it really depends. It definitely depends, because there's some really simple projects that having the best PM would make it easy for you. You wouldn't have to plan anything out. But the flip side is it might not be developed the right way. So,
and there are more and more companies where UX designers are now asked to become PMs, like Netflix. Netflix, if you're not a good PM as a designer, you're just out of the door. So there you would need definitely to have a great developer to work with, because it's assumed that you will do both roles into one.
Okay, well, let's look at the first case study, Smiles to Your Door, since that's the one I think that she wants us to look at, being first on her list. Ludovic has 5 minutes on the clock, and then we'll come back and we'll talk through it for 10 minutes.
A few moments later.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I think that I saw a bunch of red flags in this case study. That's kind of where I start when I review these things, or like, snap back to like day in the life of the person reviewing this to consider Morgan for a job. Like, they've got hundreds of applicants probably. They're looking for easy reasons to say no to Morgan, and I think I found a bunch of those. So I would start there. The first thing is I scroll down beneath the role, process, tools, duration to this first big section here. This widget actually didn't work for me. I can't get it to work. I can't click on these thumbnails. Is that working for you?
On one of them it did, but it didn't for all of them.
And same here. So I think the one beneath the next one, there's another one of these, and that works. The style guide.
Yes, that one does work.
That works. And so, I have a bunch of comments just on this mock-up here that we're talking about. One is the navigation doesn't work. Listen, if you're applying for UX design jobs, the UX of your portfolio and case study needs to be bulletproof. It needs to be peerless. There can't be things like this there. This is probably a really easy fix for Morgan to go in, but it's like, because obviously it's working elsewhere on the website, so it's not like a fundamental problem. It's probably just a little tweak. But just things like this, to all you designers out there working on your portfolios, get rid of easy objections. Broken stuff is one of those. The other, again, like a visual design comment on this, it's really hard to see those thumbnails, right? They're so tiny, they're hard to click on, they're hard to see, they're not doing their job. This is a basic usability issue that can't exist in our case studies if we want to get considered for roles, especially in markets like the one we're in right now. So that was a red flag to me. And then I also looked at this on mobile. some of these things, how long did it take you guys to realize that you can actually scroll within these mock-ups and it will scroll up and down?
I discovered that actually by accident, because if you scroll down to the section where there's a ton of the mobile like interface, it stopped my scrolling. It go up. It's further up right there. Yeah, because I was scrolling, my mouse went over it and it stopped me scrolling. That's how I exactly did actually scroll.
And I discovered this when I was looking on my phone on mobile, but this is especially bad on mobile because you have way less surface area to put your finger to scroll up and down. And then I accidentally started scrolling within one of these UIs. So to me, there's room for improvement for two different reasons. One is that it's just hidden. I had no idea. The only way I discovered this was by making a mistake and getting frustrated. It's like, what the hell is happening here? This is another kind of red flag usability problem. I think it's great that Morgan is showing us more stuff, but I got frustrated. When I figured that out, I was frustrated because I wanted to do something else. So that's stuff that's got to be fixed. If you want to show more, like in the main level of the page, I think make these a GIF, right? I love when people do that. But that was another kind of red flag basic problem I saw. Another one I saw was on mobile, these sections. Ludovic, we're looking on desktop right now, but the little thumbnails, those actually bleed on mobile. They bleed outside the bounding box of that aqua container in the background. So there's a layout issue there. Yeah. This doesn't look like an intentional design choice. This looks like a bug or a mistake.
Right.
That's another easy reason to say no to someone.
Yep. And it's really small. I mean, I like what you're saying because it's not much work for her. It's not like she's like, I have to redo my entire case study, right? But it's still a deal breaker. Yeah.
Yeah, these are just, and again, like part of me always feels bad for nitpicking on these things, but the reality is if you've got someone trying to make they're trying to rush to judgment, they're looking for reasons to say no and triage you out of their recruiting funnel, the little things like this are just easy reasons to say no. So these have to go away.
Yeah, that's something that we lean into. Like, we don't stray away from harsh feedback. Don't get me wrong. We try to do it as nicely as possible, but also it doesn't help you if you don't hear these things, because you won't know what's wrong, because people will just say, oh, it looks fine, or it's great, but it's really not. And it doesn't help anyone. And so 100% with you on all of those things.
That's right. And then sorry, I don't want to
keep going
for too much and take too much time. There is one more red flag so Morgan is using this kind of interesting thing that's, you can't see it on yours, Ludovic.
So where is it?
No, you can if you scroll down.
There's a process.
Scroll down a little bit. It shows up.
I've got the process, sticky header process thing.
The sticky header. Yep.
Okay, scroll down. Okay, that's pinned to the top. On mobile, there's a really weird behavior with this widget where like I scrolled to this and then something strange happened, and then all of a sudden I was jumped further down the page than where I was. And every time I scrolled through that part of the case study, it happened. This is another little usability flaw that should be fixed that can turn into a red flag. So those were kind of the big immediate things that jumped out at me.
And I feel like we've seen this many, many times, and I feel like it's in some sort of portfolio builder that she's using and that many people are using. This is a built-in UI element that is not good. Because these are clickable, and I remember that we saw one where like, oh, these are clickable, what? And it actually sends you to the section, but then this breaks on mobile and it doesn't even have a way to go back to the home, so you can't even navigate back to the main page. Yep. It's just like they have many issues.
Yeah, every time I've seen that, I've always questioned whether or not it's clickable or not, and I didn't even see it the first few times we've seen this component like being used. Like I didn't even notice it as I was going down, and then like, oh my gosh, these things are clickable, and like, why do they even have this here? And the only reason we actually discovered it the first time is like, why are you putting your process like that without any other section? Like, I don't understand. So not a fan of that use of that component for sure. Good call out, Jeff.
To add to that,
one thing
Jeff,
I do want to call out.
Oh, go ahead, Colton.
Yeah, it's just if you scroll to the top, it's unclear if this is for a real company. And like it says for an online e-commerce store, it's like, okay, but this could totally be a BS thing. Turns out it's real. And the reason I search for it, it's like smilesyourdoor.com. It comes up whether they created this thing or not. It does have a real website, and it seems to be a real product. And so like that is actually a big plus, right? Like, it sounds like this actually was a real product, and all the changes that that she did here, like they are on the site. So that's great. She just shipped a product, whether it was her own thing that she did or with this company. Like that's the part that's a little unclear. And then on top of that, if you scroll down a tiny bit, Ludovic, where it says how many designers or how many people are on the team, it's actually unclear what her role was. UX designer on a team of 5. Okay, what did you actually do then? Like it made me question everything below this as far as, okay, you're on a team of 5. If we were to hire you, what could you do? It's unclear from because it's not, she doesn't call out what she did versus other people on the team did. And like, to me, that is a massive red. Like that, like just seeing that alone, I would write someone off because I don't know what they've done. And I can guarantee I can find someone else who's called that out and done a better job of getting out that information. So I can make a call about, hey, this person can do 90% of the things we need them to do. I'm going to hire this person versus the one that's unclear about what they can actually provide.
Yeah, and to go back to what you were saying about earlier about this first sentence up here is like, is the same issue on the homepage? Well, we don't want to know that it's an online e-commerce store that creates blah blah. Whatever it does, it's important to know, but somewhere else here, like the main thing is like, what did you accomplish? That's the number one goal, right? Smiles to door. We don't care too much. That could be so super small, but then like, what's the achievement behind this case study? I don't know, right? And so I have to go and fish around to be like, okay, what was the problem? What was the solution? What did she actually accomplish? And all that time for me to try to figure these things out, while it could be laid out very simply here, is way too much work. And hiring manager will be like, okay, I have too much work to do. I'm out.
It's hard. It's hard to get the stuff you're after here. Yeah. And you guys both touched on things that I just love to hear so much. Colton, the point that you made about, I assumed that this was a fake bootcamp project just because of the overall structure, the way it looks. And I feel like I've seen this case study hundreds of times before, and I made assumptions based on that. I talked to so many designers who are struggling with the same thing. They're either in their boot camp or right out of the boot camp, and they don't have real stuff yet. And that puts them at a major disadvantage. To those designers out there who do have a real project, Colton, based on what you saw, this seems like a real thing. Morgan worked on this and shipped something. That is a huge differentiator right now in this market, with all the bootcamp grads out there and lots of designers, lots of bootcamp grads, not many jobs. Hiring managers want people who've done real stuff. And Colton, I think you're exactly right. Morgan should be hitting us over the head with the fact that this was a real project. Either she was an FTE or it was a client relationship. If that's the first thing you know as a hiring manager, it's like, all right, cool. This is real experience. All right, now I'm more intrigued. That's a huge deal. And then Ludovic, what you're saying is totally right on as well. If instead of the headline, if instead of it being smiles to your door, if it's improving cart conversion by 17%, that's a huge deal. And we still don't know. This is not a very scannable case study, which is something else we should talk about. But I still don't know what the impact was. There's a bunch of vague terminology. It's a whole other topic, but I never found that.
Yeah,
which could be because I didn't read everything, which is a whole other thing. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so the last little things to double click on with what you just talked about were the fact that this is walls of text and you don't want to read through it. And I actually started just reading the bolded stuff and I couldn't really follow. I could follow on kind of, but not really. And so like leading with what you actually solve, what's the problem like that you have, which is fine, what you have there, but like really getting to the point, like making it so it's easy for someone to go through this, quickly understand the problem, quickly understand the impact of your solution, like making it clear what you actually provided, and then telling a story and saying why you did something. You don't have to go into long detail about what you did. Like you can say, we did this thing. Okay, cool. The product, the designers who are reviewing this, the hiring manager knows what that thing is. Like, why did you do it matters more because it's explaining your critical thinking. And that's what they're hiring you. So like, how can you tell that story of what you did quickly, but why you did it and how that led you to the next thing? And so like that would lower the amount of text and make this way more scannable as you go down. So I think that's the other big recommendation I'd make is to rewrite this in a way that like, how would you tell your friend about this? And how would you explain to them your decision making behind it? And then like make each section like a couple of sentences long total, and like leave the rest of it, leave a little bit of mystery for when you actually land the interview, so that way you have something to talk about with your portfolio case studies that you walk through during your presentation.
Yeah, and then two more things before we start rating it. So a lot of bold text everywhere, and it's like, well, it's not really relevant in many places, like requirements, redesign, integrated. What can I do with that, right? Versus highlighting an actual key sentence that tells me, okay, if I were to just read this sentence, I'm good. I can understand at a glance what's happening here. So too much bolding is just like super overwhelming. And then the second thing is, overview, problem, solution, evaluation, competitive analysis. All these headlines are very, very static, and hiring managers see them all the time, and there is no storytelling in the headline itself. So instead of these very static ones, like how can we tell a story in just a few words that doesn't feel so generic? Because everyone does that.
Yeah.
So
Jeff, what would you give this for a rating?
I think this needs an overhaul. And this is another one where there are some, not that it's easy to work on case studies, it's a really difficult thing to do this well. Not that it's easy, but I think this is, again, we've talked about this with the prior two categories. There's some like small tactical things to move this quickly up the ladder. Like some fundamental stuff here is really good. This is a real thing. That's awesome. If that's made more obvious, if the usability problems are fixed, Ludovic, the point you just made about how headlines are written is so good. I just wrote an essay on this thing that I'm going to ship out. I'm not trying to plug stuff, but I wrote a newsletter about this week, about rewriting headlines so they're not process oriented. And if you just spend 8 seconds to quote, read this case study, you just stop at the headlines. If I know what the story is of this project from that is freaking awesome. Everybody should be doing that. That's great advice. So anyway, yeah, I would overhaul this. I think the stuff is there. And with some of these tweaks that we've talked through, like, I think this could convert into leads and interviews for Morgan. Morgan is not selling their strengths right now. And anyway, I would overhaul this one.
I want to be nice. I'll give a meh. I'll give a meh. I think that's everything you said, plus some. I mean, I think everything we talked about so far really summarizes why you're between a needs and overall and a meh for me. It's just, there's too much that's a red flag, right? It's like you need to remove the stuff that's easy first, and then the more fundamental stuff second. But if it's not usable, if navigation is broken, these are things that are just like, okay, I cannot move forward with this. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I'll go with the needs an overhaul, which means that we have a cheers because we hit roughly 3 minutes in a row or below. So cheers to you both. But yeah, I think if you do all the things we talked about, like, I don't think it would take long to get this to a solid or a kick-ass, because you have the content. You need to be clearer about what you're telling people and the storyline you're telling. And speaking of which, if you like a plug for Jeff, if you're not familiar, he has a storytelling course. It's all about helping designers improve their storytelling skills. Like, I would highly recommend looking into it, going through his framework for recreating this in a way that actually tells the story that you want to be telling and would land you a job.
Well, I actually went through it, and I can say for a fact, yeah, it is really good. You can buy it and feel good about it. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you to both of you. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, well, speaking of which, before we hop off, Jeff, how can people support you? Because we've come to the end of our time together.
That's a bummer. This was really fun, guys. Thanks for having me. And I wish we could do it again. It's just really fun to do this. And I hope it's helpful to Morgan. And Morgan, by the way, I think we gave some really candid feedback. I hope it's okay and helpful. And case studies are really difficult. Portfolios are really difficult. They're high stakes. They're hard to get right. So I hope the feedback is valuable. And anyway, people can help me. I write on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn and let me know what you think about the stuff I write there. And then go to uxstorytelling.io/course to get the course that Colton and Ludovic talked about so graciously.
If people aren't already following you on LinkedIn, they ought to, because you drop a lot of amazing knowledge there. And I know you're sharing a lot of tidbits that you have in your course. And so for anyone who feels like they struggle with storytelling, cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cheers one last time. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here. We're so deeply appreciative of your time. And we definitely want to have you on again at some point whenever we do these in the future.
I would love to do it. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Jeff.
Awesome.